Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us for a Tuesday afternoon program with the Genealogy Center. We are so pleased that you are able to take time out of your busy schedule to join us. Hopefully, you guys are excited about what we're going to talk about today, and that is DAR applications. Today, we are very excited to have joining us Benita Stayer and Cindy Myers from the local DAR chapter, Mary Penrose Wayne. And then Elizabeth Hodges is joining us from the Genealogy Center as one of my colleagues. And we're going to be talking about any of the genealogical research, and Benita and Cindy are our DAR experts. So we are excited to be able to have this program for you to be able to discuss these DAR applications. It's a process to fill one out, but it's very worthwhile. So I can say that as a member of the DAR. Joining us today, here's Elizabeth, Cindy, and Benita. So thank you guys for joining today.
Hello.
We're glad to.
Yes, glad to be here.
So today we're talking about, oh, cool. We already have a question. Today we're talking about DAR applications and how to go about completing them. The first question we already have is, what documentation is needed to link someone already in the DAR who has already done needed research?
It has to be a link between child and parent. So any documents like a will or a deed, probate records, those kinds of things would, depending on how far back, if it's more recent, then death certificates are the main thing. If they're not deceased yet, then birth certificate, anything that shows the child's parentage.
Is there a list of approved documentation somewhere?
Well, yes, there's the DAR has genealogical guidelines, and there's 3 volumes. Volume 2 deals with completing the application, and it goes over what types of documents that they will accept. So, but it's safe to say that vital records are mainly what they're looking for. And like I said, it depends on the time frame, because sometimes they're so old that there are no vital records like a death certificate, and then we go to wills and that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay. So I actually pulled that up, part 2 of completing the application and proving lineage. It's very intense. It even goes through citing each of the different sources.
Oh, yes. Yes. And that's a main thing, that when people are gathering their documents, we need to tell them that they need to write down their sources, because they have to cite the source.
Here, just so people can see what I'm seeing. It looks like there's a section on the acceptability of documentation. And then I was looking at those citations.
Mm-hmm.
So is this something that anyone can get access to?
I believe
Yes.
it might be, if they can get into the website, it should be under genealogy.
Awesome. That is one thing to note.
I would encourage anybody that is not a member to work closely with the registrar.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to things that us mere mortals don't have access to.
Right.
Yeah, they can go to the website, and it's just dar.org, isn't it, Cindy?
Yes.
Yeah. And,
okay.
Once they click on there, they can, if they want to do research on there, they go up to the top. Once they get on the regular web page, at the very top, there's a green box that says Research the GRS. And they would click on that, and that's the genealogical record or research system. And you click on that again, and you can enter your ancestor's name, their last name, and their first name, and do a search on there. And it will show what, if that patriot is listed under our records.
I'm trying to show an example.
Are you good? Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So someone asks, what is the most frequent mistakes applicants make?
I would say not citing their sources or providing too much documentation. That's where the registrar needs to come in, because the DAR, they want as few documents as possible per generation, but they need to be complete and you need to prove residence, parentage, birth, and death. So, but usually it's a birth certificate, marriage certificate, and death certificate if applicable.
Another thing they do is they come in to our library day, and they just have like their names listed and maybe ancestry, but we need everything printed off. And it doesn't have to be the original record, but it has to be a copy of like the birth certificate. And we want the parents listed on the birth certificate. Sometimes the birth certificate will just have the mother's married name, but we need her maiden name on there. That helps.
Oh yeah, I remember I actually went to the health department and courthouse in Southern Indiana to get all of the documentation I needed because everything was required.
Yes.
Someone's wondering, can newspaper announcements of wedding, death be used for documentation? Is that considered?
Yes. Yes.
What if
So
it's
they need to cite the newspaper, what the newspaper is, where it was published, the column, the date, the page number, all that. Because if the genealogists in Washington have questions, they will actually look up. They'll go follow the citing and they'll look up for the document.
So would an obituary in a newspaper take the place of a death certificate if it's a more recent death?
They would
sometimes
rather have the death certificate, but if you can't get a copy of it, then the obituary works, right, Cindy?
Yes, but in the older obituaries, they don't always mention the person's parents.
Oh, that's right.
So that's a downfall with that. But I have sent in fact, I have one ready to go that I'm using an obituary.
So is that something that you would more want to talk to the registrar about?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a great question. What does the DAR do? I have a Revolutionary War ancestor, but why should I join?
Good question.
You can take that one, buddy.
Yeah, because we're much more than just a lineage society. We do a lot for the community. We have programs and speakers at the meetings, and then we do a lot of community service. A lot of our work is done by committees. So you may go to the meeting and not realize that we're out working with the veterans. We're doing service projects, cleaning cemetery headstones, and marching in parades. We count our community service hours every month, and every member is expected to do 2.5 hours a month of service hours, and that can be with DAR or it can be with other service communities, but we like to keep track of our service hours. So that's another thing we do.
One of the cool things that I think DAR does, and somebody came in earlier this week to do research on it. I guess it is
Uh-huh.
only Tuesday, but yesterday they were in looking for who all the um Revolutionary War soldiers were that were buried in a specific county because
Oh,
they're doing wreaths across America.
oh, okay.
And they very much wanted to document all of them.
That's right. That is one of our big projects is Wreaths Across America. And we have I think we had at our cemetery that we go to and work at for Wreaths Across America, we had 20 different service organizations there, but the SAR, the Sons of the American Revolution, and the Daughters of the American Revolution were the main groups there. But yeah, they track all of those. They have to go ahead of time and mark, put out little red flags, what headstones will get wreaths, and it's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding. And every time we stop at a grave, we read the patriot's name and pause, and so they're honored at that time. We don't just throw the wreath on the grave. Kind of a lot like the national, what I can't remember, this National Cemetery in Washington, D.C., when they have the changing the
Arlington?
guard. Yeah, Arlington. Yeah, kind of like that. We don't just throw the wreaths on the grave, but it's a ceremony. But,
That's awesome. I put the link to Wreaths Across America in
did
the
you?
chat so
Okay.
people can find that. But I think it's a very good purpose and good
Yeah.
cause.
In fact, they have webinars, and they're having one, I think, in a week or two. So if they're interested, they can sign up for that one.
That's great. There are a couple questions about piggybacking off of other people's applications. So like one person said that their sister is a DAR member. They'd like to join using her application. Another person said that they have, oh, I had it and then I lost it. Another person said that they have a cousin whose mother was a DAR
Okay,
member,
good.
but they can't find the paperwork. Like, can you do that? How would you do that?
Yeah,
Well,
Cindy's the one that would help you as registrars sign up. But I just went to Continental Congress in Washington, D.C. this past July, and they have what's called the Legacy Program. And for instance, my daughter joined DAR as a junior member, and she joined on One Patriot. Well, it cost $75 for a supplemental, but they have the new Legacy Program where I have 14 patriots that I've proven, and my daughter only had to pay $50, and she linked up to all of my patriots. And now DAR is going to change that even further, so they don't have to do all that paperwork. They can just, link my daughter to those, and as well as they're going to do another program, and it's not called Legacy, but it'll be similar to that, where you can link to your sisters and maybe, I don't know about aunts, but your sisters. If your sisters have other patriots, you can pay $50 and be able to get one of the pins or bars for that patriot.
So basically, if you're, say the sister is a member, but you're wanting to become a new member,
you can join.
You can join. You wouldn't need to submit like more documentation.
Just your own generation, and then you link up to your parents.
I just found the website for that, so let's put that in the chat.
Good.
Oh, somebody else, I think, already put it in too. But I will throw it in as well.
The Legacy Program? Or what?
Here's the supplementals Legacy Program.
Yeah. And I would suggest that everybody join this year, because they were going to, at National, they were going to raise the application fee. and they've waived that at least for a year. So if you join this year, it'll be $75 for your application. Next year, it may go up. So that's just a little sideline if you want to save some money.
Ooh, this is a good one. Because this is actually something that I happen to know, but my cousin is in the SAR and said that he would share his documentation. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
The DAR doesn't accept everything that the SAR does,
No.
but you can use it as clues or hints, and then come up with your
Well,
own
if they have the
documentation.
proofs, you can make copies of their proofs. But yeah, you
Yeah.
can't use just their application. No. But now with the Children of the American Revolution, who we also have a chapter here in Fort Wayne called the William Berry Children of the Revolutionary War Society. Now, if you join as a CAR, when it's time, when you're 18, you can switch over to the DAR or the SAR, and I think, I could be wrong, that the application fee is waived. Is that right? Do you know, Cindy? It's waived, so you can get.
Yes, it was less. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, so that's a good way to get in. And I think it's wonderful when the young people are interested in history and genealogy. And Cindy and I had somebody come just this last month to one of our prospective members meetings, and I think what was she, 22? 2 years old.
I think somewhere, yeah, she said she had just graduated from college.
So that's a good time to join. And then we even have programs like the life membership. So someone like that could become a lifetime member and only have to pay the dues every year.
Well, I have an application that I need to get together with the applicant to have her sign the application, but she just texted me the other day and she said she has a cousin that wants to join also. So I said, well, let's get the cousin's birth certificate and her information, then we can piggyback onto yours, and I'll send them both in together, and then I only need one set of documentation from the generation where they meet, so it would be their grandparents.
Yeah. And another advantage to that is you save time, because I mean, all these papers go to Washington, D.C., to our national headquarters, and there's only so many researchers there that can go over the papers, so they get backlogged. And I don't know, a new application now is taking, is it 6 weeks, Cindy? And
it's a little longer than that right now.
Yeah. So if you, like, for instance, when I joined, I did the paperwork so that my mother could join, her sister could join, my sister, and myself. And so we sent all of our applications in together, and they were all verified or proven at the same time. So it saves them time, and it's kind of fun to go in with something else. So.
Okay, so we do have a couple questions about, do you have to become a member? Some questions also, like if you want to work with a registrar, should you be working with the national registrar or a local chapter? Does it have to be local to you? Could it be where your people were from? So lots of questions of that nature.
I would say local to you, because you want to get involved in your own community and meet new people and be active.
But we do have members from all over the country.
Yes, we do.
If you just want to do, wasn't one of the questions, you just want to do research with DAR?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, we have a great library there, and we also have a computer lab there where you can go in and if you're in Washington, D.C. in the area, you can go in for free to their library and do research and make copies when you're there. If not, you can go online and order certified copies. I think they're $14 and they'll send them to you. Or the library there, just like our library here in Fort Wayne, will also make copies for people. And then we have what's called the lineage research committee, and they will do research for people, but usually that's for people that are applying for DAR membership. But yeah, we're there, and we encourage all the genealogy work. And did I answer all the questions, or did we?
Yeah, I think so. I was trying to
Okay.
group together similar questions because there are a lot of questions in here.
They wonder about the structure of how we're organized. I've got a slide.
I haven't seen
on
any
that.
questions, but if you have a slide ready.
Okay, let me.
Well, I saw a question that I'd like to
Read it.
answer.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cindy.
Somebody asked about a will and on Ancestry, and could they make a copy of that, or do they need the original document? And you can make a copy off of Ancestry or Family Search as long as you cite where you found it.
Okay.
Two of us are asking about documents dating back to the mid 1700s. What would be acceptable as proof of lineage?
A lot of the main thing is like a will, where the deceased will just say he's the patriot, and then he has a will and he names his children. So, you know, a lot of times they'll say, I'll leave 25 acres to my son Samuel or whatever. And so that actually proves the lineage from father to son. Land deeds, sometimes the children will inherit land from their deceased parent, and we track that land, and then when the child sells it, there's usually all kinds of documents, Bible records. In the eastern states, specifically Massachusetts, they have wonderful records that go way, way back.
Yeah, they do.
So sometimes we can find birth records that name the parents. So
yeah, the go-to
baptismal records.
Yeah.
Quaker
Baptism
records.
The Catholic Church has excellent baptism records. So if you can find out if they were Catholic or Lutheran, go, contact those churches and their baptism records. Because yeah, we get back to generation 5, I believe, and then if it's not been proven through DAR before, it's kind of difficult. And that's when we use land records, baptism records, anything that we can get.
And that's something that the Genealogy Center can help with. If that's what you're looking for, that's typically when we get inquiries about how to link someone or where should they go next for the type of documentation. So I know Elizabeth's answered those questions. I know Kate has, I know I have. So feel free to reach out to us.
Yes.
I'm going to put our email in the chat. For those of you who have like really specific questions of like, I need help, I am stuck trying to find the proof I need, send us an email. We can give you some ideas. I know one person had said, I'm struggling to find like proof of birth for all these ancestors of mine who were born at home. Well, with a little bit more information, location, time period, we can give you some more concrete suggestions.
All right, so how DAR is organized. First of all, this is just an example. I was going to get rid of all that extra stuff, but we're the Mary Penrose Wayne Chapter in Fort Wayne, and we've been here over 100 years. Then we're part of the Northern District. So there's 3 districts in Indiana, and then there's the Indiana Society, And so we're part of that. And then they're part of the National Society. So every chapter, local chapter, is part of the National Society in Washington, D.C. And there's over 1 million members. Well, there has been 1 million member papers done. And the work of DAR is dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving history, and education. And I didn't mention the preserving history, but we give awards to people that are doing things in the community, preserving buildings or records, Bible records. We try to do that, preserve history. And we've donated several books to the library. Our chapter went to all the cemeteries. It took years, went to all the cemeteries and took pictures of all the headstones and made books and donated those to the library. So, and as I mentioned before, we have the genealogical library there in Washington, D.C. We're governed, our head lady in Washington, D.C. is called our President General. And right now it's Pamela Edwards Rose Wright from Texas. And they're elected for a period of 3 years. And so anything has to be okayed through her, the National Society, and her 11 officers. Then we have the Board of Management, state regents, and chapter regents. Then each administration at the national level decides what they're going to emphasize. This one with Mrs. Wright, she was a jeweler, by the way, so she's got beautiful jewelry. In DAR, we always say you have to like jewelry because we have our pins. In fact, I didn't show that, but well, there's a slide, and that's doesn't have very many pins, but there's some of her jewelry. And that's her pin. So she has a pin that she designs, and this was the President General's pin for her term of administration. And these are some of the different things she's trying to do, because the 250th anniversary of America is coming up soon. And so DAR is getting ready for that. We're working in the communities and getting things ready, just like I remember, it dates me, but I remember the bicentennial and all the different things that the communities did. And that's what the DAR wants to get, is when we come to the 250th anniversary of the country, we want to have some things and some celebrations in order. And they've got trees that they are, and forests, well, trees that they're planting and marking, and they've got other different projects. Every state has I can't remember the name. We've got the Pioneer Woman. Do you remember the name of that, Cindy?
Pardon me?
The lady in the statue in Richmond. Forget the name of that. Oh well.
I don't know.
Anyways, we're trying to get ready for the 250th anniversary, and our chapter has markers, historical markers throughout the community. I think we have 20, but DR recognizes things in the community history. I'm just going to click so the Continental Congress is like our convention when we meet in the summer. It's usually around the 4th of July. And we always say everybody needs to go at least once to the National Congress, Continental Congress. And it's named that after, of course, Continental Congress of the United States when we were formed. But it's just wonderful. There's thousands of ladies, and we all get together from across the country. And there's wonderful programs. They have speakers from everywhere. The generals come. They have the military bands play, and it's just, it's remarkable. the President General, who I showed you her picture, she marches in from the back, and as she marches in, and they're playing the Star Spangled Banner, the United States flag comes down from the ceiling, and everybody's just awestruck. But you have to go. Allison, you need to go at least once.
I'm gonna try to.
Yes, it's really amazing, and it makes me so proud of DAR in our country. It's just wonderful to be there and to see it. And
That's amazing.
it is. Then we have some vocabulary that people might not be familiar with. Junior member. My daughter is a junior member, and she says, I think people need to realize a junior member is not a half member. You're still a member of the DAR. It's just you're a younger member, and they're from age 18 to 36. Continental Congress, I mentioned that. The CMR is the Chapter Master Report, and that is done every year just to document what we've done for the year. And also those records go to the Smithsonian. They keep records of what we've done over the years there. And the regent is the head of the chapter. Regent is another word for queen. So that's the president of our chapter. The Service to America tally, that's the volunteer hours. I said that every member is supposed to have at least 2.5 hours a month, and that's the tally for that. State conference, every state has a conference. It's like a mini version of the Continental Congress, but they have a state conference. There's state councils. We have in Indiana a fall forum, and it's fun. We go to Indy and we have workshops one day, and the second day we have programs or meetings. A yearbook is our directory of members. It also has our programs in it, and it has other things in it, information, maybe the bylaws. So here's the Indiana State Society. And here's our current Indiana president, Sherry Baxter. And there's some of her bling, a little bit of it. And we'll have 12 officers under her that work on those committees that we talked about. And it can be patriotism, membership. Part of the membership committee is getting new members and retaining the old. Then every state regent will have a pin, just like the national one has a pin. This is Sherry Baxter's pin. It's a heart with a cardinal on it for the Indiana bird. There's our state officers and the different committees that the different offices that they hold. The state society events then are the state conference. It's in May, and the district meetings are in August. Chapter officers that we have are regent, vice regent, chaplain, recording secretary, corresponding secretary, treasurer, registrar, historian, librarian. We meet the second Saturday of the month. Usually we meet at the Allen County Library downstairs in one of their meeting rooms. Our chapter name, and you'll notice that the chapter names are different. A lot of them are named after Revolutionary War generals or patriots. Ours is named after the wife of General Anthony Wayne of the American Revolution. There's our chapter officers. There's our objectives, and we try to make the objectives go along with the National Society. And that's the committees, I mentioned that.
So there is a question from somebody about joining their local chapter. They said that they live in kind of a rural area, and their chapter covers like a big chunk of the state that they live in. So, and it's not close by. So they're not
Sure,
physically able to attend
sure.
meetings in person, and they're wondering if that would prevent them
They,
from
they might want
joining.
to join as a member at large. A
Okay.
member at large can go to any of the chapters, so she could join as a member at large and then visit different chapters when she's able. She wouldn't be able to participate as an officer, but she could join DAR that way, and it's less expensive. But they're trying to reach some of the rural areas, and now with Zoom meetings, of course, we can do that.
Cool.
There's also been a question about trying to decide which chapter to join, and I made the recommendation of visiting the chapter meetings because you
right.
can visit as a guest.
That's right. you can.
Absolutely.
We like that. So, and also any officer like I can or Cindy can look up, and we can go to the DAR website under e-membership, and we can find out where the chapters are. If you give us the name of a city or a county, we can find out what chapters meet there and whether they meet during the day or at night and how often they meet. Some chapters meet all year, every month of the year. We only meet September through May. And then in the summer, we do social activities or service projects. So yeah, there's a lot of different things. You get the chapter of your flavor, whatever you want. There's some chapters, some people want to be very active, like our chapter is active and it's a larger chapter. Some people might prefer to be in a smaller chapter. And so yeah, different focuses.
Yeah, it's good to check out different places if you
Mhm.
have the option.
Yeah.
So there's a really interesting question in here. So I wanted to pose this one. It says, I'm the descendant of an unknown woman slave and a Revolutionary War veteran. What is acceptable documentation?
Well, first of all, we would have to determine if that patriot has already been verified within the DAR,
Mm-hmm.
and then work backwards through there. But we do applications all the time with patriots that have not already been proven. So we just have to prove their service.
That's right.
And, I don't know if he was actually married to the enslaved woman. Probably not. I don't know. But just find out any documentation that we could.
DAR, are y'all starting to accept DNA as proof yet, or no?
Yes, but it's limited, and
Okay.
it's really used in the more recent generations. I haven't participated in any that have used DNA, so I'm
Cindy
not
and I
really.
Cindy and I both took the class. DAR has genealogy classes too, and we've both taken the DNA class, but it's kind of tricky, and I haven't done one of those papers yet, and Cindy hasn't either. But
It's usually used for, somebody that's been adopted and they know who their birth mother is or their birth father.
Yeah, they can use that.
But you also have to get permission from that person to use their DNA.
And
So
then I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
I think
There's a
that,
lot of stipulations.
yeah, there is. And I think that we have a member in our chapter that she's actually an associate member. She has a member in Ohio, and she's done a couple different DNA applications. And Cindy and I, if we had one, we'd go to her, but she would be able to help us with it. But it's kind of complicated, so we're just getting into that, I'm sure, just like everything else a few years from now, and we'll know how to do it. Just like online applications. We were doing that like 3 years ago. They said, okay, we're going to do online applications, scan your proofs and send it in. And I tried to do one of those and it was rather difficult. But now I think more people are doing that. You can do your application online instead of paper. And so it's just everything evolves.
You still have to scan your documents and
Yeah, you
send them
still
Yeah.
have
in
to scan.
electronically.
Yeah, and then they'll have copies there.
No, just thought I'd ask because I feel like someone had asked one of the librarians that recently, and I'm like, I think it's complicated.
Yeah,
So
it is.
want to see
You
what you
gotta
ladies
have
had to say.
something on paper. I know, yeah, so if you could get the DNA and
It's very important to talk to the registrar of the chapter that you want to
yes,
join,
yes,
Right.
because they can help you. Oh, I think that's the biggest takeaway everyone needs to walk
is.
away with is
Right.
the local chapter where you're looking at joining wants you to be successful with this and wants to help you. So
Mhm,
utilize them as a resource.
mhm.
Right. Somebody asked a question about Bible records, and we submit Bible records all the time. Technically, they want somebody, or they want a picture of the title page so they can see the year of the Bible. They want the pages that has the information on it, and they also want to know who has the Bible. But sometimes that information is not available, and I have submitted just Bible pages and they've been put through.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't let it stop me if I didn't have the title page of the Bible.
Just like everything has changed, DAR, because I mean, we were started years ago, 100 years ago. And when they first started, they would go by word of mouth and fill out the applications. And any of those papers, they have copies of those, but any of those papers, if you want to go off of one of those for your family, now you'd have to get the records. They wouldn't just take word of mouth. And then they started using genealogy books. And there's some patriots who they use genealogy books. Now they don't allow you to use a family genealogy book unless it is proven or like well researched. It depends on, a lot of different things. So it has to be accepted. But I know maybe 50 years ago, they would have just taken the genealogy family book.
So I know the answer to this question, but I like the question. I'm considering submitting an application and I will be in Washington, D.C. in 2 weeks visiting NARA. Is there any benefit in visiting the DAR in D.C. while I'm there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And go to the library. And someone there will help you. They have what's called balcony volunteers. And I was that. Well, actually, I didn't do it there. They have people that will do research. Like I met during the pandemic, I met with ladies that were working on papers. And I would do a little Zoom meeting with them and help do their papers. And they have ladies at the library that will do that, help you with their papers. So they're balcony helpers, they're called. That's another question.
Okay, there's one thing I realize we haven't shown yet is the application itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's seen one of these, but this is the actual application. And there's the member at large. Let's see here. You can see that they give the formatting.
Now, Allison, in order to get an application, you do have to talk to the registrar, right? Like you can't just find this in the wild. Yeah.
But they give them away quite easily.
Yes, because I would think that you ladies want people to join. Yeah. But it requires a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at the
I always hand out a worksheet, a lineage worksheet to
I have a
our
copy of that. Do
prospective
you?
members. And that way they can start with their self and list their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, so on. And that's very helpful so that we can put names and dates and residents all together.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
That's it.
There it is. And this is the first thing we'll give you is one of these if you don't already have a paper that has this listed. Generation 1 is you. And we always do the man, or you, that'd be the lady, I'm sorry. And this, so that's generation 1, that would be you, and your spouse would be next. And you fill in as much information as you have, the when you were born and the location and what documents, and your birth certificate. So fill as much of this in as you can. If not, we just use it as a guide. Generation 2 is your parents. You put your father first, and then your mother, and go across. And this is the location. And so fill as much as you can. And then here it says link between the generations. And that's what Cindy mentioned before. That would be your birth certificate that shows your mother's name and your father's name. So that's your link, is your birth certificate. So then you do this generation, your parents. Third generation is your grandparents. And then this is where it splits up. You could do your grandmother's family or your grandfather's family or your mother or father also up there. So, but this is the basics. You get the first 3 generations done, and then we try to link the bottom ones, and it's really great. In fact, Cindy will look at the different patriots that link up to you, and maybe link up to you and get the one that we call the easiest, the one that's proven more generations. And maybe you won't have to worry about generation 5, the hard one.
But if you do, contact Genealogy Center.
Yeah,
We can
go to
help.
the library.
Yeah, that's right.
They will help you.
Someone's asking if you have more than one person wanting to become a member at once from the same family, is it still $75 per person to join with that one application that everyone's kind of going off of?
Yes, it is.
Yes, you have to, when you join, you have to pay your yearly dues for the chapter, state, and national dues, plus the non-refundable $75 application fee. And everybody has to pay that.
Yeah.
Question of a similar vein. When you do an application, are you supposed to just pick like one ancestor that you think will be the one
Yeah.
most likely to get you there, or all of the ones that could
Well,
possibly?
if most people only know of one, but
Okay.
I have one right now that has 4 possibilities. But I told her, let's pick the easiest one to prove and send that in, and then she can work on supplemental applications on the other ones if she wants to.
That's right.
So, and also it's important to have your registrar fill out the application because it has to be printed. It's legal size paper. It's special paper. It's 25%
Yeah.
reg content, and we have those supplies.
Yeah, because we keep these papers forever, and so they have to be on the special paper. And if it's not, Cindy will get it back. And
Yes, and all applications have to be signed in black ink.
On that first
That's
page, they have to be signed in black ink, and this is when you can't make copies of this, sending copies. You got to have copies of your proofs, but the application has to be the actual application. And,
So someone asked about the dues. I went ahead and threw what's on the application, a new application in the chat, but I did want to note that you write a check for, like, it's different checks basically. Can you explain that?
Yeah.
Well, people write a check to cover our dues, and I could be wrong, but I think other chapters' dues may be different than ours. But like they will write a check for $147 to me, to our chapter, and then I send that check to our treasurer, and she takes out our dues, and then she gives me a check for $120, and that's what I send to National to cover the national dues and the application fee. So if it doesn't go through for some reason, and I will not send an application that I don't think will go through, but you would get all of the application fees or all of the dues back, but you don't get the application fees. So my mind was going somewhere else, and it
Here's a slide.
I'll think of what I was going to say here.
On best practices for sharing your application or for sharing records.
Pardon me?
Make sure you can read the names. Sometimes when you copy, like out of the actual book at the courthouse, if you copy a page and you can't read it, they won't accept it. You have to be able to have a good resolution so that you can read it, then they can read it. If you can't read it, then they won't accept it.
And I've had people take a picture with their phone that is not clear, and it really needed to be a photocopy, not from your phone.
So here's one. This is a specific question. I have a possible patriot that passed in 1781 in New Jersey, and his brother put a claim on his behalf of damages he received from the British. I think his wife is listed on as well on that document. Does that count as service?
Donated to the cause?
I would think so. It was against the British?
Yes, damages he received from the British. So the British.
Well,
no, no, because he would have to prove that he did service for the Continental.
If he got that and then later on he changed his mind and you can prove that he became, a patriot, then they could join.
But if you have an ancestor that like donated supplies.
Yes, you can donate supplies.
And that counts. A lot of times they would donate money, or they will provide beef or clothing and that sort of thing to the Army.
Yeah. And the library has a lot of those records. If you go and look at the county records, they'll have what, people, maybe it's in the city records. Like
a lot of times that there are women that are a patriotic service, so they're a patriot, or they can be a patriot.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Let's see here. If somebody on the application's been married more than once, do you need to list both husbands?
Usually I do if when they got married the second time, they were using their first married name. So you try to track the name changes.
That's right. If there's a name change, it makes it easier to have a record of why the name was changed.
Thank you.
But they're getting better, or they're getting more, open about not always needing marriage records. Before, when like we joined, you had to list all the different marriages and show the divorce decree from your first marriage or whatever. But now they know that a lot of men don't want to share that, and women too, and so they don't always have to list that.
Yeah, you don't always have to show your husband's information if you don't want to.
Show his information. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
However, if you have a daughter that wants to join later,
Then
then
she'll
she will
have to
have to
get it.
provide her father's
That's right.
information.
So.
So this one question is, I've just discovered a Revolutionary War ancestor who's not on the DAR roll of ancestors. I have his widow's pension application file and her will, which names their only surviving son and granddaughter. Although her will doesn't state that this son is the granddaughter's father, I can prove that their other two sons died without children. Would her will be enough to prove the relationship?
Without looking at it, I would say yes, but we might need some additional information.
Awesome.
Yeah, if it's a tricky application, Cindy or the registrar will have to do an analysis. And that's when you have to document everything. You have to say why you think that, all the research you've done on that. And I don't have a copy of that, of one of those as a sample, but that's what you'd have to write out as an analysis. And it goes step by step, and it shows, okay, there's so many John Greens in this county. So how can you prove that John Green is the father? And it would be by age. And you could say, okay, the first, we know that is a John Green because he was old enough to have served in the Revolutionary War. And then they'll even say, well, there's land bought. So a younger man most likely didn't have the money to buy land. So it would be an older person. Or if it was someone that didn't serve in the army or the service, maybe he was too old. So they look at all those, and you have to write all that out and why you think that, and the records you have.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So I think this is going to be our last question of the day. I'm wondering about adding other family lines to your membership. I know the rules changed somewhat. If you have time to briefly mention, or if you could post a link, that would be great too.
I'm sorry. She wants to add more patriots, or?
Yes.
Well, each one would stand on its own. That's what we call a supplemental application.
Yeah, we did mention when the one lady said she had, if you have several, can you turn in? You can only turn in the one, but you can save your records and get a supplemental. And supplementals right now are also $75. And then you get another bar for your ribbon. And that's why I have like 14 different patriots, and Cindy has several too. And that's how it's kind of addicting. So that's why we keep getting more patriots. But yeah, you can add more to your family. In fact, when I joined, I wanted to join on my mother's side, my maternal side, and I searched and searched, and it was kind of difficult to get patriot with all the proofs. But I found one, and I joined, and then I started doing my paternal line, and that's where I had most of my patriots, because they were all well documented. In fact, they were from Connecticut. And Connecticut records are excellent, if you wonder, and Massachusetts, all those eastern, states, they have a lot of good records. So you can find more patriots there than where I was first looking in North Carolina, which was a little difficult.
Thank you very much. So we're going to have that be the last question of the day, because we've answered so many here today. Thank you, everyone. There's been people in the chat helping out as well. So thank you, answering questions. Thank you so much, Cindy and Benita, for joining us today, especially since this was a little bit of a last minute change. So we truly appreciate you being here and helping people with this DAR application progress. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us if you're looking for help with research. Make sure to contact your local registrar, as that has been mentioned many, many, many times. And also feel free to reach out to the ladies here at the Mary Penrose Wayne Chapter. So very briefly, I just wanted to put up a slide so you guys can see that. This is the local chapter, and these two wonderful ladies who have joined us today are from this local chapter. So make sure to contact them if you have additional questions, or you can contact your local registrar or your local chapter. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Hopefully you will be able to join us for our Thursday evening program. But otherwise, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.